The League of Voters of Market County meeting is now open. Welcome to everybody. It's great to see all of you here. Are you hearing me enough in the back? Okay. So this is a special meeting because it's in a special place and a special presentation this evening. A few more people might come in too. So a few things to let you know and welcome is that anticipating that when people might be coming in and aren't just members, we have a lot of material out around the room about some of our activities and also about us. We have membership applications and we do take checks. So you can see a woman in the row over here if you have a checker. And we always welcome new members from age 16 up, any gender, anybody. We're happy to have all thoughts and ideas come and join us who are interested in a nonpartisan, political, educational, and voter-supportive organization. So, are there any new members here tonight that have this as their first meeting? No. Okay. Any guests here that have not been to a league meeting before? Hi. Oh, sorry. You're a member?
Well, my first time coming to a meeting.
Okay.
Just exploring.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and welcome. And you're a guest? Great. Any other guests here tonight? Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. Isn't this a beautiful space? So we're here tonight in the Marquette Regional History Center. This is a collaborative production with them because we thought that this topic tonight would bring in people who have expanded interest and we might have a little more room. So we do. There's a couple of business things we have to do to make this an official meeting. Bear with us, it won't take long. We do need to approve the agenda, so could I have a motion from a member to approve the agenda?
I move to approve tonight's agenda.
May I have a second? Madeline? Any discussion about the agenda or additions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Thank you. And the second thing, the next thing to do is to approve our meetings from our last meeting, which was September 6th. So I would like to entertain a motion to approve those minutes that we've all received. Jean? Make the motion. Okay. And a second. Great, thank you. And any discussion about the minutes, any questions or concerns? No? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no? Great, we approve the minutes. I just have some announcements then. A couple of things. We have our voter services and our communications people have put together a mini guide to our local election that's coming up in November. We are having the big one in the newspaper because it's only a couple of local races. But it's a really nice guide, and they're over on that table under the Voting as People Power sign. So you can pick one up. Also, especially if there's any members who would like to distribute some, pick up however many you think you can take somewhere useful to leave. So that's fine. We've got quite a few of them, right? So that would be good. There are another activity that's coming up that's another in a series of this Hooked on Voting, which we have a very lovely trifold about. This is our outreach to mostly to elementary school age children, but of course also to their parents, right, and their siblings. And we've had some wonderful times with the kids in the library. This one's going to be in the Negaunee Library for the first time, I believe. And that's on October 4th, what time? 14th? October 14th.
9 to 11.
9 to 11. So if anyone has kids or grandkids and would like to go to that, you would be welcome. And lastly, I want to announce next week is our candidate forum for our city elections. This is going to be a sort of double forum with the Market Board of Light and Power candidates and the Market City Commission candidates on the same night. We're not going to go into the wee hours. The Light and Power Board are going to be sort of a mini forum, but we want this to be educational too, because it's a facility that a lot of us don't know that much about. So that will be next Thursday, October 12th, with the doors opening at 5:30, and the forum will start at 6. So please, everybody is welcome. Tell your friends. The other thing we really need from the citizens of Marquette are questions. Because the questions that we ask the candidates in the City Commission Forum come from the citizenry. We have, again, on that back table, some cards and a little box, and you can write a question that you would like asked to the candidates of the City Commission, and just leave it there. We take all the questions. We'll be taking questions at night as well, but it really helps our question screeners to get an idea of the issues, to start sorting them, to start looking at them ahead of time. So all the questions you can put in would be great. So think about that during our presentation a little bit, maybe, and leave us a question. Excuse me. I have one announcement this evening that makes me a little sad. We were hoping that Senator Stabenow would be able to Zoom in and speak to us this evening. Unfortunately, we learned through her scheduler who sent this note that said, well, some of you may have seen that Senator Stabenow tested positive for COVID last week. While she's feeling much better, I'm sure you will all understand that she's taking it easy and unfortunately will not be able to join you this evening, but hopes to connect with everyone at another time. So I'm sorry to say we won't have the senator with us tonight. We all wish her well. And we certainly will keep it in our back pocket to maybe set up another time that she can join us. With that out of the way, though, I am going to adjourn the business meeting. And I'm going to introduce our member, Sandy Meisfitz, who's going to introduce the presentation tonight. Sandy is not only a very active league member for a long time, she's also a board member of this beautiful history center. So she's going to tell us a little bit about where we are and what's going to happen. Thank you, Sandy.
And I don't have to use the gavel, which is nice. So I have my hat on right now for the museum, and before I introduce the program, I would like to thank the museum for partnering with us. When we started this adventure, we just found that it was a natural thing to have history here and history of women in Michigan. So I'm so glad that we were able to be here in this wonderful facility. If you are already a member of the museum, thank you so much for doing that. And could you raise your hand to see how many are? Okay, thank you so much. Well, and now if you are not, that's the next part. We are a nonprofit, and so we rely on memberships, fundraising, events, if you put $5 in for tonight, and grants. And so we are really looking to the community to be a member. And it doesn't hurt to be one. It doesn't cost a ton. In the back, when you leave, I can give you a brochure. We start with, $40 for an individual, and it goes up to a family. This you renew every year. In the meantime, during the year, you get this wonderful little bulletin. It's called Carlos Wooden Man with information. And then also, because some of you are members, you learned about this because an email is sent out to you regularly that tell you what is coming up for events. So you're always in the loop. So, as I say, there's a saying that says it takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a community to raise a history museum. So please, if you can, join us and be a member of this wonderful organization. So, with item tonight is called Challenges to Women Running for Michigan Office, and Sherry Davey is here to speak to that issue. So I have like 2 pages worth of her bio. So I'm going to give you a couple of those. So Sherry Davey has a wide and varied experience in public service, so let me just highlight a few. Ms. Davey is currently Executive Director at Marquette Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, a trustee of Lake Superior State University, and a board member of Marquette Elgin Community Action Board. She has a Master of Public Administration from Northern Michigan University. She's a former UP manager for Senator Debbie Stabenow for 10 years. Wonderful. She has served 10 years as a member of the Educational Support Personnel at Lake State University. She's a businesswoman and she's co-owner of Davey Multimedia. And she's been appointed, and this was the hugest part, elected to many boards, many. So please help me welcome Sherry Davey.
Good evening. So I'm old, that's what it's telling me. I've been around. But I'm delighted to be here on behalf of the League of Women Voters. I was sharing with some others earlier, and I will take one of your application on the way out. It's been my interest in rejoining, but I want to tell you my history first before you let me in. I joined the SUE, the League of Women Voters, 20-some years ago, and it was wonderful people on the same wonderful mission, and it folded. And then I moved to Marquette in 2001, and I joined the league, and it folded. So, are you sure you want But I certainly do appreciate your mission, and I wanted to share this picture along that line. This is a picture that was given to me when I retired from the senator's office, and it has all of the women in the Senate at that time. And I'm very proud of this, and certainly all of those women. But you know what I was so amazed with? When Senator Stabenow first became a U.S. Senator, and she shared with us that once a month, all of these ladies got together and had dinner together in one of their homes. And to do so, they'd get together and they would talk about all the things they agreed on, and then they talked a little bit about the things they didn't agree on. But you know what? They were moms and grandmas, and the things that they could find to agree with each other on was greater than the things they didn't agree with on. And I suspect that as a result of that legislation that they were engaged with, really made a difference. And oh my goodness, don't we wish we had that now? Yeah. And you know, this is going to be, and I know David, you are here, and a few other gentlemen, so do not take offense at this, but I do wish the gentlemen of the Senate and the House would do things like this. You know, I think that would really open up the communication and, you know, help the issues. And I'm not going to do anything with the gavel. We know about the gavel. That's, you know, you've got to be delicate with the gavel, is what I do. So what I'd like to do this evening is talk a little bit about some of my experiences in running for appointed or elected office. And primarily I did that in the east end of the UP before I moved to Marquette to work for the senator. But there's some things I certainly learned along the way. And so I call this presentation Bear Baiting and My 3 Red-Haired Mentors. So they're not necessarily, they don't necessarily go together, but they both are sort of part of this whole thing. So in 1967, I was living in Las Vegas, Nevada, working for the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission. And I was a 19-year-old stenographer, and guess who was the chair of the USAEC at that time? It was none other than Dr. Glenn Seaborg. But I had no idea. I mean, I talked to this gentleman on the phone, mostly placing phone calls, and I met him at quarterly meetings that the scientists of the nation would get together quarterly to talk about some of the tests that had gone on, the radiation, kind kind of the Oppenheimer sorts of things. And they put together a top secret document that went to the nation scientists, and they talked about all these things. But I had a Q clearance, as you know, that's the same clearance they took away from Dr. Oppenheimer, unfortunately. But you know, some of the language was talking about the results of tests that Bikini et al. Or LASSO, we call it LASSO, but it was the Los Alamos Scientific Lab, and LRL, which was Lawrence Radiation Lab. I'm sure you know all about those things. But anyway, it's good. The big focus there was a Russian test ban treaty, and you know, it's a good thing. Well, it wouldn't have mattered if the Russians got their hands on them, because you know, if you look at one of these documents, you know, it would have been perfectly safe, you know. But anyway, that was sort of where I started. So I really didn't have a lot of involvement in politics until about 1972, when I was interested in the McGovern campaign having gone south. But that's really the first time I really thought about politics or got involved. I did, however, meet the first of my 3 red-haired mentors. And this was a woman who started the first mathematics laboratory in Rocky Mountain State. This was in Denver, Colorado, University of Denver. And her tenacity, she wanted to work with children who were, well, low achievers in math. That could be me. But she primarily worked with low achievers in math and developed programs around them and traveled internationally. She decided to develop a mathematics laboratory. And having observed some of the politics with a little peek, at that time, what she put up with to create that, she was working in the mathematics department, and I observed firsthand what she had to do to get where she wanted to go, and she did it. And so I learned a lot from her on that. And, so she's really the first of my 3 red-haired mentors. So we moved to Sault Ste. Marie, and my husband and I have a media production company. We got involved in working with our state senator and our state rep in all of their video, print, radio, whatever. But we also got involved in campaigns as volunteers, and I think that's so essential to what you're doing, and you know, how you reach the young people. Because when you get involved in a campaign, whether you're knocking on doors or stuffing envelopes or talking on a phone day, you're part of the family. And I have found through the years, I mean, we still, you know, see our former state senator and former state rep and people that we have worked with on campaigns, and it's like you just sort of pick it right up. And I know, Jane, you talked about just having gone to a class reunion, and people were just reignited by being back together. And I think that's really a strong message to tell young people that, you know, it isn't just working on the campaign when you're done. You know, you're connected to these people, whether it's the candidate, whether it's the people you're working with, and that hangs on forever. And you know, hopefully, and usually, it's a pretty good thing. So I hope we can do more, you know, to encourage people to get involved in campaigns. So we moved to Kinchlow, and I was not really involved in anything there, other than discover that they're going to close our post office. And Kinchlow, this was about almost 6 years after the base had closed. So it was kind of a, you know, unwieldy group of people that lived there. It hadn't really started to cement yet, but it did at a period in time. But so we get there, they're ready to close the post office. Well, I don't know that you know, anybody can get excited about losing their post office. So anyway, I took it upon myself to carry around a petition to get some signatures to say no, close our post office. Well, as I'm wandering around from house to house, knocking on doors and chatting with people, I discovered half of these people aren't even registered to vote for crying out loud. So on my next trip around. You know, I had a little application, and you go and fill it out, and you become registered to vote. And I guess I'll just sort of skew off a little bit here to talk about the importance of, you know, when you work on a campaign, and you send the money, and you knock on doors, and you do all the other stuff. That's only the beginning of your responsibility to the candidate. Because, you know, the candidates go there and they get lots of stuff thrown at them, and they don't have all the answers either, but they need to know who it is they're representing and what they stand for. And so I always tell people that's the first step. You vote for them, you work for them. But, you know, then you get on the phone to them, you send them letters, you get on their website, and you say, hey, you know, what's going on with this? I thought you were a supporter of this. I need to know why. Or, you know, if you are indeed a supporter, how can I help? But too often, people sort of get disconnected. And I did see that in the senator's office. You know, I would go to an event in a small little community, you know, maybe taking a USDA check or something, some kind of presentation. And the people there, once you started talking about things other than what you were, you know, there for, you find out, oh, they have problems with their water system. You know, they've got all these issues. They didn't know how to reach out. And so that's really part of it, is reaching out, you know, and as I said, you know, whether it's an email or a letter, and I've even I've talked to people about the importance of communicating, and some people say, I don't have time to do that. Does a form letter count? Yeah, it does. You know, in the Senate office, we have a system where everything is, you know, looked at, reviewed, encapsulated, and put on a system so that the senator at any time can look at, you know, for example, what's going on with the Sioux Locks, and have any staff have any involvement with them. And so she's got everything. You know, she knows, oh yeah, Sherry went over and met with these people on this date, these are the issues. So again, involvement is just so important. So I moved on from there to the school board. First I became, you know, this involved parent in the community, because we were living in a community that had a farmer base. And so we had a bit of disconnect. You know, we had Red Deer, which was awesome, and we had Kinchville, which was awesome, but sometimes there was some, you know, mixed feelings about relationships between the two, when the base closed, and then there were the base people, and there were, you know, the Red Deer people, and probably after, whatever, but, so my mission there was, well, I wanted to make sure that our kids had access to a skills center. So I decided to, you know, run for the board, skills center and a school counselor. Those two things were very important. So I ran for office, and I had never run for office before, but it was certainly interesting, you know, to have the opportunity to learn the issues. You know, you never go to a football game without talking about whatever's going on in the school. So if your son's playing football, forget it. You know, you're there. But I always felt that was the role. But you know, I got really excited about politics, and so simultaneously, I was serving on Kinross Township Board and a mental health board that served 2 counties. So, needless to say, my family would never go to a grocery store. They knew it was going to be a 2-hour ordeal, so, but, you know, again, I felt so much communication was important, and the things you learn, you know, when you're out and about in the community compared to when you're sitting at the board table. So I valued it in the people that presented it, whether or not I agreed with them or disagreed with them. You know, it was good to have the picture, the full picture. So anyway, that goes on to my second mentor, who was Dr. Meg Malmberg, and she was the chair of the Department of Social Sciences at the Lake State University, and I worked for her as her staff assistant, and she's the one that got me involved in mental health, the mental health the Newberry area, so I was familiar with one aspect of mental health, and not necessarily community mental health and other aspects of it. So anyway, she encouraged me to run for that board, and again, I thought, what am I doing here? You go to the first meeting and all these acronyms, and you're thinking, whoa, I don't know if I'm going to get this or not, but so anyway, but I made it through, and I served there for 10 years on the board, and among all the services and positive things that happened, it also gave me the opportunity to meet Hillary Clinton. She came to Escanaba. I don't know if probably many of you are familiar with the UP Children's Coalition. And she came up to speak to the UP Children's Coalition. She was First Lady at that time. And I had the opportunity to meet her very briefly and go to the airport where she was going out and to thank her and the president at that time for his support for education and mental health. So that was kind of a fun sort of, thing that happened. On the township board, that's where we get to the real living folks. So, I served on the township board, and the highlight there, though, was going to Washington, D.C., and we had a national township conference. And I've always been a believer that, as Margaret Mead said, it takes one to, I don't know if you remember the exact way she put it, but one person can make a difference. So we get there, and well, I have to say that at that time I was the president of a women's club at Kinchlow, and this was a group of, we allowed men in, but most of them didn't. So it was a women's group, but we had a women's group, and basically we did fashion shows and wine tastings and did things to raise money for the local fire department and ambulance corps. And so anyway, as president of the Women's Club, I started thinking, it'd be really neat if we had an air museum here at Kinross. Why not? And so I posed that to Congressman Stupak at one point. He said, come on, Shirley. Do you know how big those things are? Well, yeah. So anyway, when I had the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C., and Carl Levin, who was involved in the Military Affairs Committee, they would take one question from someone from Michigan because they were in session, and he just sort of zipped in, and I decided it would be me. So I asked him, how come, when we spend all these dollars on things in the military, and then we go to Arizona and we sit in the warehouse, and nobody can ever access them. And this was part of the base reconversion bill that was involved at that point. And so, lo and behold, about 3 weeks later, I got a fax from him, and he said, I want you to know, I took what you said to heart, and he said I looked into it, and they were able to lower some levels of allowing people to have things. And our community, Kinross, actually ended up with I'm trying to think the equipment we use for emergency shelters. And of course they were available all across the nation. But I truly at that point believed, one person, one healthy person can make a difference. So, So, anyway, after that I decided I will run for county commission. And, I had, good people around me and had a lot of good support on the other various boards I was on, but I thought county would be kind of interesting, broadening my scope. And then on the, about 2 weeks before, well, it wasn't 2 weeks before, it had to be on the ballot. On the ballot was bear baiting. Well, bear baiting. So, my candidate was supportive of bear baiting. And I lived in Kinross, so. I lost that election by 30 votes. Yeah. So, that's my bear baiting story. That's ironic because my mother, my whole family, growing up in the Newberry area, they all hunted, I didn't. But my mother even hunted in her 60s, and, you know, so I was selected bear baiting that. So then I went on to, let's see, went on to work at Lake State and, you know, worked with the educational support personnel. I was a union steward, and that's the first time I ever met Senator Stabenow. I was on a trip to Lansing on behalf of the union to lobby with a little the senator on some legislation that we thought would be beneficial for our union. So that's the very first time I ever met her. So that was my first engagement with my second director. So then I was elected to the EUP Intermediate School Board, where I served for 6 years. And then I also served on the Michigan Association of School Boards. And I had the opportunity to meet Madeline Albright. She was at a national conference of the School Board Association. And I always had thought about what she said at the time. She was talking about the differences between men and women in politics. And she said, well, you know, I tell Henry Kissinger that, you know, if we're at a luncheon and you spill something down in front of you, you're stuck. She said, with me, I just skirt. Wow, is that a woman? So I thought of that very often. So in 2001, I was given the opportunity to work for Senator Stabenow. And as she told me then, she wanted me to be the eyes and ears for her in the UP. And wow, what a trip that was. It was truly amazing. And you know, I think of all the things. Most recently, she was over at an event at Lake State, a new freshwater research building we have over there. And she was there for a reception. And I commented on the amount of things that happened in this UP because of her, and certainly Carl Levin and Bart as well. You know, I cannot go into any community of the UP that there isn't something, including this wonderful building. She was part of that when it began, and her role in USDA rural development, which is, you know, like parents, you should never have a favorite child, but you know, I'm sorry, I do. I love rural development. What I've seen it do in the UP, USDA are deep. I mean, we've got hospitals, we have child care centers, we have senior centers, we have water sewer systems, we have so many things, and we're all attached to that. And I guess at that point, one thing I would mention is any of you who are working with grants or things through rural development, I would encourage you always, always, always to contact the senator's office and ask for a letter of support. And she's always happy to do that. She's got staff. In the role I was in, I was the regional manager, so my role was pretty much external, which I loved because I was out in every community of the UP. Sometimes, you know, and talk to the bottom in a week, but I love doing that, being able to be out with people, because as I said, what you learn when you go to those communities, you find out what really is going on, what the real needs are. So I want to make sure that you're all, you know, on, and certainly Senator Peter's office as well, you know, to contact them and ask them for that letter of support, because it does make a difference. So, let's see what I think here. Oh, when I went to the DC office, we were first supposed to go, well, she was elected, as you know, in 2000. Started her term in 2001, and I came to work for her like in February of 2001. And so we had all planned to meet in DC for a conference with all of her DC staff. And she has, you know, the 6 regional offices in the state of Michigan, plus the DC staff, who are specialists in various areas. So it's like, you know, when you call Marquette, you want the Marquette office. You need information on something that's going on at the International Bridge or some other federal issue, district courts, whatever. You know, not only are you dealing with a local staff assistant or regional manager, but you're dealing with the layers of people that she has there that know all of the liaisons in the various departments. So you have true access to them. So anyway, we were scheduled to go to DC in September, and September 11th happened, so it got moved to the first part of the year. But what was really fun for me was each district had to share with the DC staff what their district was like, and you know, some of the unique aspects of it. So for me it was fun because I took a superimposure of the Upper Peninsula, laid it over the Lower Peninsula. That's my district. And not only that, but I have 2 time zones, 2 NFL teams. So that was kind of fun. And then we typically always we do a weekly report to the senator so she knows what we've been up to. And where we've been, who we've talked to, what the issue is, that kind of thing. And the people in DC really liked my reports because I always give wildlife reports. Because, you know, you can't travel around the UK without seeing, you know, wildlife. So anyway, that's kind of where, you know, that's kind of the exposure that I had to politics through all that time. And of course, she'd be my 3rd grade mentor. But you know, I was thinking more about the first UP state representative too. And I think there are so many similarities between Debbie having been the first U.S. Senator to the state of Michigan, and Cora Reynolds Anderson, who you probably may be familiar with her. And she was truly our first UP woman representative, Native American. And recently, Senator Peters and Senator Stabenow dedicated the Bearville Post Office to her. But I had the opportunity to be there probably 2006 or 7. She was inducted to the Daughters of the American Revolution, and I had the opportunity to go there on behalf of the senator to participate in that. I think it's interesting that she only served for 2 years, but the issues she cared about are the same as Senator Stabenow. I mean, she was on agriculture, that amazed me. She was on agriculture. She was also a leader in healthcare issues. You know, she founded on people not washing sheets and you know, all those people staying in different lodgings and they didn't wash sheets, and that was a big issue with her. So she got very involved in health-related issues. I think tuberculosis was another one, and alcoholism, addiction. So there were a lot of similarities. And I was thinking about what Senator Stabenow said recently. We are now going to be funding health care above the neck, the same as health care below the neck. And you know, I think about Cora Anderson, and you know, it would have been so awesome to have both of those women. You know, of course, Senator Stabenow served in the State House, State Senate, U.S. House, and U.S. Senate, so she had a lot of opportunity to do amazing things. And Cora only had a couple of years, but did so much. She wasted her 5 years. And we can only imagine. I mean, can you imagine what she put up with when she was telling people that they needed to watch their sheets? So, anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to share with you. But I did want to share this one, this little, I'll end with this little point. Now, you know, if you want to ask any questions, that's fine. Make sure I can see my right reading here. Here's to the untamed. May we know them. May we raise them. May we love them. May we read them. May we elect them. May we be them. So that's kind of where I wanted to take that, but I'd be certainly open to any questions if anybody has any comments. Yes?
Mine isn't a question. I was involved with NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness, and Debbie came and spoke and gave a wonderful program. And we asked her why she developed that interest, because she, I can't think of the word, but she really worked hard to get mental health legislation, financing programs and grants and things. But she said her father had a mental illness. Her mother was a nurse, and they didn't understand his behavior for the longest time. And when they finally realized he needed help, she said it wasn't as available as she would have liked. And that prompted her to take that on as a cause, which of course all of us who were involved in any way were really grateful, because she's, I think you said, she was effective in exactly what she did.
And interestingly enough, in her DC office, she had a picture of the little girl that was kind of the catalyst for her first campaign, because she had been denied medical care. And so Debbie had this picture of this little girl in the office.
And then if you don't mind, I had a math teacher in my senior year who was determined to get women involved in programs that they weren't accepted in. So she said, apply to the U of M. Growing up in East Lansing, but she still said, apply to the U of M to get into engineering school. They accepted it. And there were just 2 of us of all the engineering students who were women. But at about, I don't know, one of my 5th classes, I'm up at the board doing a problem, and the instructor said, Miss McCann, don't you think you'd be better off in home economics? And I wasn't clever enough to come up with a good reply. So I transferred back to Michigan State and got my teaching degree. But they kept sending requests for donations to the engineering school, which I would throw away or tear up. Finally, though, and excuse my language, but I attached a note to one and mailed it back and said, where the hell were you when I needed you? I ain't giving you any money if you don't want women in engineering. And then beautifully, ironically, when Randy and I moved up here in 1968, Tech, the first time we ever walked down Washington Avenue, Tech was holding workshops trying to get women to come up there in engineering. And we thought, wow, you know, what a contrast. And I can remember saying to myself, well, we've come a long way, baby, but your timing wasn't right.
I was thinking about that as well when I was thinking about those quarterly meetings with the USABC. And I think there were 3 females in the room, I was one of them. But yeah, I mean, there were no women scientists at all.
Right. And things really have improved. My husband was in veterinary school, and when he was in his basic classes, there were only 2 women in veterinary school. Nowadays, almost half of the veterinary classes are women, and doing very, very well. So that's encouraging, isn't it?
Yes, it really is.
Does anyone else have a question? Yes?
What are you gonna do when she's done? Or what's your next?
Well, I'm really not involved in her office anymore.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the young man, many of you probably know him, King Beauchamp. He worked with me from the time I first started working for the senator. We were actually over in the post office. Senator Abraham had a big little office down there. And so King came in about a month after I was hired, and I worked with him the entire time. So he's been there this whole time. He's still there. So that was my question to him, because I said, you always said you were going to go and live on a desert island and you didn't have to answer the phone anymore. I don't think he's ready to do that quite yet. But, no, I'm not sure, but I hope, you know, there are a lot of people that are inspired with some of the things that she's done, that, you know, will step up to the plate and get it out.
Is she really burnt out?
No.
Because I wish she
No,
weren't
you know,
retiring.
I asked her this, when I saw her in the Sioux, and I said, you know, I'm really sorry to see you leaving, because, you it made such a difference. And she said, well, I think her mom's 96. She said, well, I've got 96-year-old mom. I said, yeah, so, but knowing Senator Stabenow, she's not, I'm waiting to see where she shows up. I mean, she still has a lot of energy, certainly a lot of smarts, and we certainly do need her somewhere, wherever she decides to be.
Yeah, so has Senator Stabenow shared any experiences that she had, again, because she was a female in a field that, do you have anything that you could share with us around that?
Well, only, what you've seen, her comment about, she's the young rock at the table when she met the county commission the first time. Yeah, so I wish she could have been here tonight. She certainly could have shared a lot of, she's had a lot of years of experience with that. But, she had a lot of battles.
Do you think it's gotten easier or harder for women running for office over the years?
I think it's getting easier. When you look at what's happening over the last few years, there's still going to be some of those same things that have held women back through the years, but I don't know if women are getting stronger or people are starting to be a little more respectful of women in office. And I think just the sheer value of what we've seen with women and what they have done. Actions truly are louder than words, and I think that's going to encourage more women. But we certainly need to encourage that. I think, and this is probably sexual bias, but I think women bring an element to politics that most men do not. So.
I keep wondering if anybody wants to run for office now with the threats to your life that are being handed out.
And I shudder to think, having served on the school board for 12 years and ISD for 6 and ASD for 6, I really value education. I think it's tremendously important. And that's what really worries me is when you see elections where people are, just not willing to run. And it's not that they're not capable, they just, like you said, it's the threats and, I don't want my family to not be harassed. And my family were harassed, they just, they were only talking to me anyway, so. But, no, it totally is a different time, but I think it's really, really important that we support those women who do decide to do that because they can't lose fact of the importance of it. And they have a large role to play. But yeah, it's tough. They better put their flak jackets on.
I have a question. Through the years that you've run for things and seen people run for things, do you see any basic difference in the style of campaigning between men and women candidates, or is it more personal, individual?
I think it is more personal and individual. I think, social media has played such a role in that too. People know so much more about people. Good or bad, they know so much more about people. So I think it's truly an individual thing. I was thinking about that the other night because I don't know what I was reading, something about women in politics. And I remember this when I was running for county. I had a very crusty county commissioner in Chippewa County who's a great guy and did a wonderful job. But he was out of the bar with the guys. That's where they need all the decisions. And, I reminded him one time, my mother always told me that, you can still be a lady and do the job. And I guess that's kind of where I sort of land is you have to figure out where you're at and what your values are. Might have to put up with a little bit, but, it doesn't change you. You can't change because other people behave a certain way. So.
Other questions?
Yes.
I had experience in 1961 at the U of M Law School of only 2 women in my class. And Professor B.J. George so mistreated one of them that I walked across campus and changed schools there. But more importantly, Debbie Stab and I first met at a bar on Michigan Avenue in Lansing. She was on this time of year running for election. I think that was for a state office at that time. And she sang. She sang "Summertime and the Living is Easy." And I wonder, does she still sing?
Oh, yes, always. Well, there was a place in Lansing, I think it was called the Green Door.
That was the place.
I've never been there, I've seen it, I've driven by it, but yeah. But no, she would, typically we would, if she was around like over the holiday season, we try to get all of our Michigan staff, and some of the DC would come in, but most of the Michigan staff, we meet at her house for Christmas in Oklamas. And she'd play the piano, we had to sing. Yeah.
Good.
So it's always good to have a senator who can sing.
Any other questions, comments?
Well, thank you. I so appreciate the opportunity to hear you again.
I just asked Jerry if maybe she put the picture up on the table while we're breaking up and so you can take a look at it. I do want to, again, thank you all for coming and inform you this was our very first personally live-streamed meeting. Thank you to Sandy and Laura, who over several weeks here have worked out the technical details of putting this on YouTube. And thank you all who subscribed so that we actually could do it. Who knew that you had to have subscribers to YouTube? So we hope to do more of it if this comes out. The recording could be a day or two in coming onto YouTube, although we know it's people have been able to see it now, but it takes a couple days, I guess. Anyway, thank you so very, very much. I think you can stay around for a few minutes here, and please check out what we have on the tables, all the information. Which one have you got up? Oh,
Got the voters.
the voters guide. Pick up those to distribute. Leave any questions, please, for the city commission. And thank you all. We'll see you, members, I hope, in November.